my driver, whoever he is a Marine. He served in the military. How about the rest of you guys? Did you serve in the military?
I did in the Army, man.
Army? Okay, what about
Navy.
you?
Army retired.
Mr. Byrne, you wanna come?
Did you serve in the military? Are you a veteran?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you serve in?
I served in the Army for 30 years.
Okay, Army. How about the rest of you all?
Navy.
Navy? Anybody else? How about you? Anybody else?
My father did in the Navy.
Okay.
Why
Well, if you know that somebody in your family, if you know that somebody in your family served in the military, hold up your hand. Well, that is great. All right, put your hands down. Put your hands down because I'm going to ask you another question. Do you just right now? We have a volunteer military, and if we needed you to go, would you consider going in the military and being a veteran? How many of you would do that? Okay. Well, that is great. Well, thank you. Well, I know that you want to ask me some questions about Georgia, but I was thinking I might read this book to you. What do you think about that? Well, this is one you're supposed to be able to read by yourself, but your librarian, your media specialist said that you did not have this book. Somebody gave it to me, and I thought it was a really good story and very appropriate since we're about to celebrate Veterans Day. Because guess who that is about? George Washington, who was the very first president of our United States. Now, is Georgia the United States? We're a member of the United States, just like you all come to this school. But you're not this school, are you? You're just a member. And Georgia is one of how many states make up our United States? 50. But back when George Washington was there,
There's only 15 colonies.
with 13 colonies only, we didn't, until they fought the war, they didn't even have the 13, I mean, they had the 13 colonies, but they belonged to Great Britain. And so, this story is about George Washington and the general's dog. And do you know that I heard a story, but I don't remember where I read it or heard it, that George Washington had one of his hunting dogs that he brought to Georgia long years ago, and it died while he was here, and he had to bury it near Augusta, Georgia. So I've got to look for that, see if I can find it, or maybe you all can find out for sure if that really happened. Well, I'm going to sit down to read to you. George Washington is one of America's greatest heroes. Most people know that George was honest and brave, but there is something about George that people don't always know. I can turn the pages, that's the problem with reading. Now, George Washington loved animals. Can you guys in the back see? Well, maybe you can read later. Maybe your media specialist will order this book. George learned to ride horses as a boy. Sometimes he rode into town. George rode fast, but he never fell, people said. He was the best rider they had ever seen. See, he's just riding away on that horse. You see how fast he's riding? When George grew up, he moved to a farm called Mount Vernon. Every day, George checked on the horses and hogs, pigs. He checked on the oxen, mules, and sheep. But he spent the most time with his dogs. He loved dogs. George had a lot of dogs. I guess you all can't see. George had a lot of dogs. He owned 36 dogs in his lifetime. 36. He took them hunting. He played with them. He even gave them cute names like Mopsy, Sweet Lips, and True Love. True Love. Sometimes George spoiled his dogs. He let them run around the house. One day, George's wife Martha cooked a ham for dinner. George's dog Vulcan jumped up and stole the ham right off the table. Martha chased after him, but George just laughed. And there it shows Martha chasing after him.
I can't see that.
Oh, you couldn't see it? Okay.
It's funny.
George liked being at Mount Vernon with Martha and the animals, but America needed him. America was not yet its own country. It was an English colony. That means it belonged to England. Many American colonists wanted to be free from England. The war was called the American Revolution. The American Revolution. That means, it comes from the word revolt, which means to kind of not agree and fight back. The colonists chose George to be their general. George chose his favorite dog, Sweet Lips, to go with him. He said goodbye to Martha and Mount Vernon. He jumped on his horse, Nelson. Then he rode into battle. In George's day, soldiers often brought dogs with them to war. Dogs helped hunt. Dogs helped track the way. Dogs helped guard against wild animals. Best of all, dogs were great partners. The general of the English army was named William Howe. He had a dog too. He also had 9,000 soldiers. Wow, a whole lot more than we have students here. They had plenty of supplies, food and guns and things like that. George did not have nearly as many supplies. Sometimes his soldiers were cold. Sometimes they were hungry, but they did not give up. In the fall of 1777, George's troops went to Pennsylvania. They were fighting the English troops. Guns fired, rat-a-tat-tat. Cannons roared, boom, bang. Smoke filled the air. Because they were having a battle, weren't they?
Yeah.
Finally, the fighting ended. The English soldiers went back to their camp. The battle was over for the day. The smoke began to clear. George noticed a dog without a soldier. It looked lost. George bent down and patted the dog's head. The dog followed George back to the colonist camp. He wagged his tail. Whose dog is this? Wondered George. He found a lost dog. George looked at the dog's collar. The tag had a man's name on it. The name was William Howe. William Howe? George couldn't believe his eyes. William Howe was the enemy. That's who he was fighting. He was the leader of the British troops, the English people, English soldiers. And this is his dog. Word about the enemy dog spread through camp. Some of George's men wanted to keep the dog, but George said no. George believed the dog belonged with his master. George had his friend Alexander Hamilton write a note to General Howe. The note said that George wanted to return the dog. They didn't have telephones back then. They had to write letters. Both sides raised white flags. That's a flag of truce. The white flags meant no one could fight. George's soldiers walked the dog across the battlefield. They gave him back to General Howe. See, the dog is happy to see General Howe, isn't he? He's licking his face. They loved each other. People in England found out about George's good deed. The English still wanted to beat George and win the war, but now they respected him. Some English people even liked him. They had never heard a story of such great kindness between enemies. They were enemies. They were fighting each other, but they both loved dogs and they were kind to each other by returning the dog. In 1783, America won the war against England. America became its very own country. George Washington went home to Mount Vernon, his farm. Friends around the world wanted to honor George. They wondered what he would like. Then they remembered the story about the dog. Soon, presents started arriving at Mount Vernon. The King of Spain sent George a mule. George named him Royal Gift. How about that? Can you see the mule? He's just kicking and carrying on. The King of Spain gave him to George. A friend from France gave George an even bigger gift, 7 dogs.
Wow.
And that was from Lafayette, who was a Frenchman who fought with the Americans. George's work was not done, though. The American people needed a leader. They elected George to be their first president. People all over America loved their new president. They cheered when he rode by in his carriage. They knew it was him because his 6 white horses always led the way. So I don't know if somebody gave him the 6 white horses or not, or if they belong to the state. But there is, in the back, it shows a picture of the letter that was written by Alexander Hamilton, and it says, General Washington compliments to General Howe. It's hard to read it because I don't read that kind of writing very well. Does himself the pleasure to return him a dog, which accidentally fell into his hands, and by the inscription on the collar, appears to belong to General Howe. That was nice of him, wasn't it? And these books are for you to read. There's some that you have some like this in your library. This is called Step Into Reading, a History Reader. So I hope you'll check out these books and read them for yourself. And maybe your media specialist can get one of these. I have to take this one with me because I need to read it to some other people. So I can't give it to your media specialist, but I hope you will read about George Washington and some of our other veterans. And tomorrow, be sure you say, well, today and tomorrow and every day, say thank you to our veterans, people who have been willing to fight for us and for our freedom. Okay? Now, I know I'm supposed to be here to answer questions about Georgia. So,
Look, well, I'm just gonna explain what we did,
Okay.
and everybody knows, because everybody in this room got a chance to write some questions down. And since we don't have time to do everyone's questions, I'm just gonna draw some out of here, and I'm gonna read it, but you get to stand up if I pick yours. I might let you read it, but it might take a little while, so I'll probably do it that way. And I just wanna say, Mrs. Deal, I had no idea that George Washington was such a dog lover. Love that book,
until I
really good.
read this book.
Okay, first question. This is from Matthew, I believe in Miss Nolan's. Miss Nolan's. Matthew, would you stand up? Is it hard being a governor's wife?
Well, it's hard and it's fun. We do a lot of entertaining, and when I first went there, my feet hurt all the time. I had to learn to wear aerosol shoes with a soft cushion because we were on the marble floors all the time, walking and greeting people, and all day long I was standing, walking all over that mansion. And so that part was kind of hard, and sometimes you just don't get much time with your husband to talk about private things because there are people there all the time, and they don't let me drive. They don't let either one of us drive. I haven't driven since he got elected.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm afraid when I start to be back in the normal lifestyle, I'll have an accident.
All right.
Thank you.
Let me draw another one. I don't know whose class, Jennifer.
Jennifer,
She didn't put her teacher down. Oh, Jennifer, stand up. Apparently, one of the classes did some research on you. And Jennifer's question is, what subject do you like to teach when you were a teacher?
Oh, I liked both. I taught English and social studies, and I loved both. And I get to teach both all the time. I even used my teaching of English and correct writing. We've written a book called Memories of the Mansion, a coffee table book. It's beautiful to tell people about the families that have lived in the mansion. And I corrected a lot of things as we wrote it because of knowing how things should be written. And also every day, because the mansion is a museum, I teach people about the mansion and about the beautiful furniture in the mansion, because all the furniture just about is 200 years old.
All right, thank you. The next student is Will Bales. Will Bales in Miss Schaefer's class. Will's question is, do you have a limousine? And if you do, can you invite friends?
We have, the state owns a Suburban. I ride in a Suburban, which is not a limousine, it's a Suburban. And my husband rides in a Suburban, but they finally got a brown one for me because I kept getting in all the black cars. So they got a brown car for me so I could find the car.
That's cool. All right, Memphis.
He's not here.
He's not
there.
He's
He's not here.
Oh, Memphis is absent. All right, well, we'll still read this question. What is it like to be the first lady? Is it a lot of pressure?
Well, it is in that you have lots to do every day. We have lots of things to do. And people coming, and maybe you're not quite ready, but I have a lot of help, and that helps with the pressure. But I have to be careful what I say and how I look and all that. I just don't go out in my blue jeans and t-shirts. I have to get dressed up to go out because people are watching me everywhere I go. And they're listening, and they make sure I'm being nice to other people. And that makes a difference, because you can't be ugly to people and people respect you, can you?
The next question is from Olivia, our star that invited Mrs. Steele. For those of you that don't know, Olivia is the one that wrote the letter, and it was such a great letter that Mrs. Steele said, I gotta go to that school and visit, because Olivia wrote such a sweet letter to her. And here's Olivia's question. Do you have any maids that clean up your house? If you do, how many maids do you have?
Well, we have men who clean up the house. And so I have to be a little bit careful about what I leave out in public. They do the laundry too. It really is, the men who work there really are prisoners on work release. They were people who'd been in prison, they committed crimes. But they've been in prison a long, long time, and they're learning the skills to be able to get back out and find a job. And so after observing them for a long time, the people who take care of them in the prison say, I think this person is getting ready to be able to get out, and they need to go somewhere and learn to do some things like do the laundry or make up beds and vacuum and clean, and then maybe they can get a job cleaning in a hotel or somewhere. And then some of them work in the kitchen, some of them work outside and cut the grass, and they keep the grass so beautiful, and they hand clean the chandeliers, the pieces of glass, they have to hand clean them. But they're learning to get out, and we try to help them. And so we're very respectful of them, and they are very respectful of us. But they are the ones who work there and clean for us.
All right, that's so interesting. I would never have thought it. All right, this question is from Autumn in Miss Adams' class. Autumn, will you stand up? There's Autumn. Do you have a guard dog?
We do have, I don't personally have a guard dog, but they have one that's a drug and bomb sniffing dog that they have a pen at the mansion, and sometimes it rides in the car with the patrolman, but they go around the house and check everything several times a day before people come and after people have been there to make sure somebody didn't leave a bomb or something that would hurt somebody, or that somebody was using drugs or anything like that. So they do try to make sure we're safe.
All right, the next question is also from Miss Adams' class. Jacqueline. Did I say that right? Oh, there she is. What does the governor do in his free time?
Oh, he likes to go to the cabin. We have a cabin in Habersham County up near Clarksville, and every chance he gets, he loves to go up there and walk in the woods and look at the trees and look at all the plants that are growing and blooming and look at the river. And he doesn't get around to fishing very often, but that's what he really likes to do every chance he gets.
Okay, let's see what else we have here. How about Jordan in Miss Schaefer's class? All right, good old Jordan. All right, is your mansion beautiful, and do you have a butler?
Our mansion is beautiful, and we do not have a butler. We have all this beautiful furniture like the White House, and it's beautiful. But we have all the red silk furniture in the living room, and all very nice old pieces with beautiful workmanship, and lots of beautiful chandeliers. But once upon a time they had a butler, but we decided, well, other people before me decided we didn't need to spend the money on paying a butler, that we could just let the men greet people at the door. And if I'm there during the Christmas holidays, well, during the Christmas season, we'll have the mansion open for tours, and I usually try to greet everybody at the front door because I want people to know they're welcome to come to their house. It belongs to the people of Georgia. If your parents pay taxes, each family owns a little bitty bit of that mansion. And when you get older and pay taxes, you'll own a little bit of that mansion. And we want to take good care of it, but we want people to know they're welcome to come. And coming to visit the mansion is free. You just have to come during the hours we're open, so you have to contact the mansion to find out when we're open. For regular tours 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and for the Christmas holidays, we have some days that we're open and we decorate, and we'd love for you to come, but I know a lot of you are gonna be in school during the time we're open, so. But we have to let our men go back at night, so they're not there.
All right, you tell me how many questions you wanna take, cause we got a lot of questions.
Oh, I can answer lots of questions, it's just when Alyssa calls time on me when we gotta have time to get to the
Okay,
next
gotcha.
school. But other than that, I could answer all day.
This is from Brooke in Ms. Schaefer's class. Do you help the governor with any of his work that he does? And do you ever go to the Capitol?
I do help him a little bit with, I have to give him my opinion of things. And sometimes I have to go places when he can't go, I go and make a speech for him or something. And I do go to the Capitol fairly often, once or twice a week I usually end up at the Capitol for something. Whether it's to have pictures made or to have a meeting or do a program but yes, I do both, but mostly I work at the mansion and he works at the Capitol.
I'm just gonna throw a question out there since we just
Alright.
went to the Capitol. A lot of the kids may not have seen this, but when we walked by the governor's office, we saw this big painting of Tomachichi. Now, we haven't studied Tomachichi yet, but we will. Can you tell us the significance of the painting and why it's in his office? Anything?
No, I'm not sure about that particular painting and why it's in there. The state has a collection of good art, and we also allow artists from across the state. We take sections, and we allow those artists to submit art that they would like to hang in the governor's offices for 6 months, I think it is. And they can submit those paintings on the computer, pictures of them, and then we select the ones we think would look nice there. And they bring them, and we take pictures with the artist, and we hang them there for 6 months. But I think the Tomachichi painting is a permanent one, and I guess he just likes it and kept it in that office because he liked it. But I really don't know the story behind it.
All right, this is from Miss Adams' class. I believe it's Elan or Elan. All right, sorry about that. Where is he? Okay, here's his question. What does the governor work on the most?
Oh my goodness, he works on trying to learn a lot of things, reading a lot, so that he knows about what is going on in the state that he needs to work on, whether it's the water or the roads or the budget. Right now, they've been working on the budget. And do you know today where he is?
Where?
He is in Dubai. He is way across the ocean in Dubai because they're having an air show there, and there are lots of people in Georgia who work with aeronautics, the airplanes and things that fly. And so he is over there to try to help them get business, because that's where people who are interested in buying planes and buying equipment go to purchase things. And so he's helping our Georgia people to get business from Dubai and from people all over the world who would come to that air show. He doesn't really fly he flies in the airplanes, but he doesn't drive no airplane. But his young man who works for him does fly, or used to fly. He doesn't get to fly now because you have to have some free time, and he doesn't have any. So he said he would fly later. But
Okay, this is from Kelly Hayes. Kaylee, there we go, right in front. You wanna read it since you're right there?
Okay. What do you do when you are not working?
oh, I read if I can, but most of the time I'm writing thank you notes. Because Miss Alyssa tells me, Miss Deal, you're gonna get behind, write those thank you notes. If you get any spare time, write those thank you notes. And so I try to write thank you notes every chance I get to stay busy.
Well, let's see, this one is Well, this one's asking, what do you do the most in your job? I mean, and you just told us, write thank you notes and
Yes,
go,
and when I'm at home, I write thank you notes. I read to children a lot and visit schools and visit children in the hospital when they're newborns and talk to them about getting their shots and doing things to protect children.
and by the way, that question was by Riley. How often do you travel? This is by Asher. Who's Asher? That is, I believe, I'm not sure who's class, the Towns' class, Asher. Asher wanted to know how often you travel, obviously.
Well, I travel, in Georgia just about every day, doing something out to visit schools or groups. But we go on trips sometimes. We went to Germany about 2 months ago and visited, trying to get business to Georgia, and there were two companies, one that's already building a building and one that is, that told us they were going to come to Georgia to start a new business. And so those are ways to get jobs for you all. When you're grown, we hope you will be educated enough and trained enough that you can take those great jobs that people are bringing to Georgia. So it's really important for you to work hard to read and learn your math and science and be a good worker, have good habits of coming to school on time every day and being at school every day.
Wasn't me.
This question is from another young lady right next to me, so I'm gonna let her read it.
Miss Steele, why do you think your husband wanted to become governor?
Well, I think the reason he did was because we felt there was a need for leadership at the time that he was at a point in time where people were encouraging him to run because they thought we needed a good leader. And he had had a lot of experience because he had been a juvenile court judge and he had been a district attorney when he dealt with the prisoners and put them in, had to help put them in jail if they committed crimes. So he knew about those things. And then he had served in the state senate and he'd gone to walk down to Atlanta for 12 years. Then he had served in Congress. He'd gone back and forth to Washington and represented us in Washington. And so he knew a lot about a lot of things. And so when people wanted him to run, he decided maybe he should. And so that's what he did. He decided to run. He talked to me about it and I said, well, I believe that you have the skill and the knowledge and the temperament because he's not somebody who gets mad a lot. He's nice to people and he listens to people. And you need to do that. You need to be friendly with people to be in charge. You don't need to be mean and bossy, do you?
No.
You need to get things done by working with people quietly and trying to help everybody be satisfied with what you do. So that's what he did. So that's why he ran.
All right, this one is a personal question from Lydia. Where's Miss Lydia? There she is. She would like to know if you have any children.
I do have children. I have a son and 3 daughters. But the thing is, my son and 3 daughters are old enough to be your parents and maybe grandparents even. They're older. They have grandchildren. I mean, they have children, not grandchildren. They have my grandchildren. I have 6 grandchildren. My son has 3 children, and his oldest one is in the 10th grade at North Hall High School, and that's not too far from here. And then my oldest daughter has 2 daughters who live in Atlanta and go to school in the Atlanta public school system. And then I have a daughter who lives in Rome, and she has 1 son. And I have a daughter who is married but doesn't have any children, but she sings and travels all over the United States singing. And she just flew in yesterday from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where she'd been doing a show. And I picked her up at the airport because it was her birthday.
Oh.
She was 37 years old. Yeah. And so, that's my family. My son is a judge, and my oldest daughter works with Georgia State, and my middle daughter works, works for a company in Rome, and writes some things. She's written a book, so, they're very active people.
All right, we have a few more, and then we have a little presentation to make. Well, this one's just asking, how long has your husband been governor? And that was written by Ike.
He has been governor for almost 5 years. He was sworn in, he did 4 years, and then in January, he was sworn in to be on the second term. And so when it comes January again, after Christmas, he will have been there 5 years total. But he can stay for, how many? 8 years, and that's right, 2 terms, 8 years, 4 years each term. And then he can't be governor anymore.
Before we do our little give Miss Deal a little gift we have for you, do any of the adults have a question? Because I've learned a lot, so I thought maybe some of the adults might have a question before we do that. No?
I have a question.
Okay,
Being an educator yourself,
yes.
when you talk to the governor, how do you support teachers and educators?
Well, I tell him, as I tell everybody, teachers touch lives and change lives every single day. They don't often know what they do and how they change lives, but you do change lives and make such a difference because you're helping that child to grow and become a better student. And so it's very important. Teachers are extremely important. Now, we talk about how we can make things better, how we can support our teachers, because my biggest thing was, and sometimes teachers I think don't understand it, but my thing was I never wanted to be a principal. I just wanted to teach. That's all I wanted to do. And so I would like for us to be able to pay our teachers more so that teachers who really just love to be in the classroom can make more money and stay there and not have to become a principal to be able to make more money. Now, there are people who are very good in administration and love that, and love being the leaders and love being in charge. But I'm not one of those. I just like to go and talk to young people every single day and read to them and encourage them. And that's mostly what I do, although he does run some of the issues by me. I hear him talk about it. But you know what? I'm not a paid employee. I don't get paid, so sometimes they don't include me on the committees that make the decisions. And so sometimes I don't get to say what I would say if I were at the meetings, but I don't get invited. I don't get appointed, but anyway, but I do say what I think. And sometimes I disagree with people. Yes?
You've written your coffee table book for the mansion. Have you written any children's books?
I haven't, we've thought about it, but we just haven't done that yet. I really need to. We've been talking about it since the beginning of the term when we first started, but I was so busy trying to find out things about the mansion and the people who lived there. We were the 8th governor, and there was nothing written about the families that lived in the mansion, except a little bit in Mrs. Carter's autobiography and a little bit in the book that Mrs. Busby had written about the recipes she served to people who were her guests. And that was all we could find about the families who had lived there, and they've all made such great contributions. I wanted to have a little bit about those families so people would remember who lived there and the contributions they made, as well as pictures of the beautiful furniture. And then the first part of it is the history of Georgia, so that you can use that one book to look back and know all about Georgia and how Georgia came to be.
we have a little something we wanted to give you. So Olivia, would you like to stand up? Remember yesterday, guys, where everybody went to the stage and we took a picture with the banner for Mrs. Steele, welcome Mrs. Steele? Well, Olivia's mom is really creative. So this is what we're giving her. It's a shadow box, and it has Olivia's letter, real small, so that Miss Steele will never forget the letter, because it's such a good letter. And then we have a picture of all of us with our sign on the stage, and it's just very beautiful. We think it is. So we hope that you like our
Very
present.
nice, I do like your
We're
present.
so honored that you came to Chattahoochee.
And I didn't tell you how Olivia knows who I am. Olivia's grandfather, who is over here, hold up your hand, Dave Westfall. This is Dr. Dave Westfall. Well, Dr. Dave Westfall moved into the neighborhood as a neighbor to Miss Becky Brannon, and Miss Becky Brannon went to college with my husband, and they were on the debate team. Yes. And they knew each other, and when she moved to Gainesville, we had moved to Gainesville, and she said, "Is this the same Nathan Deal I knew at Mercer University?" And he said, "Yes, of course." And so they renewed their friendship, and then she became his secretary, and then she worked for him when he was the congressman. And you know what was even better? She hid the Christmas presents from my children because they would get into them at my house before Christmas. And so Miss Becky would hide the Christmas presents at her house so my children would not get them before Christmas. And she would invite us to come and eat Christmas breakfast after we had the Christmas Eve service. She would invite us to come and have breakfast at night, grits and eggs and all that at nighttime. And wow, after we had breakfast at night, then she would sneak out, or my husband would sneak out and get the presents and put them in the car so that we could take them home and surprise our children the next morning. And Dr. Westfall and his wife had 3 daughters who lived there next to Miss Becky. And they would come over and play at her house, and we knew them at church, and they were all friends. And do you know that one of their daughters is named Katie, like my youngest daughter is named Katie, and she is a singer and actress too. And she works in New York, or did the last I knew. And so we've just been friends all through the years. And so it's just so nice that. And then I remember when Olivia was born, she came when she was just a small, maybe 2 years old. She came to visit. And at Miss Becky's, she had to come for Christmas at Miss Becky's and have breakfast. Because we still continued going to Miss Becky's even though my children were grown up and didn't try to find their Christmas presents. But we would go to Miss Becky's, and Olivia started coming to Miss Becky's, and I remember her singing and doing the poems of the night before Christmas, I believe it was. Wasn't that what it was, Miss Becky? She did performances for us, and now she has a little brother who can do some of those, and she sings, and that's how I know Olivia. And now Miss Becky has a granddaughter who's getting married. So the world grows up. But you never
So
know.
fast.
The lesson we learn from that is, and I tell everybody, be nice to everyone, because you never know when they will come back into your life, or when you might need them to vote for you. Whether you want to be the captain of the ball team, or the homecoming princess, or if you want to run for governor.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be nice to people. They don't vote for people who are mean to them, do they? Well, thank you all for this. This is lovely, and I will enjoy this. And we will put it up in our office. You know what I did? I took over the governor's office at the mansion. Because he had an office down at the Capitol. I didn't think he needed an office at the mansion, and I did. And so we put 3 desks in the office, and I used one, and Miss Alyssa, where's Miss Alyssa? Miss Alyssa uses one, and then we have another girl there who, her name is Catherine, but she goes by Cat. And Kat is there, and she looks after things when we're gone. So the 3 of us have desks in the governor's office. He just has a recliner.
Well, thank you so much. Does anybody else wanna, Ms. Bella?
We got some questions, but I don't know.
Guys, I know a lot of people have questions, but she's got somewhere to go after this.
I'm going to
She's
visit
going to
another
Gainesville.
school.
Yeah,
I'm going to Mount Vernon in Gainesville, close to North Hall.
Yay.
We don't want her to be late. So let's give her a hand. It was so great.
Thank you for being good listeners, and I hope you'll read these history books because you can learn something while you're reading. That's really great. And thank you for